Welcome to The Critique. Today we're looking at transcripts from the YouTube channel Outliers and Exiles with Genxjeff, focusing on how the host's discussions about his community really revealed some deep psychological patterns.
Yeah, the material is incredibly rich. It's almost a transparent look at someone trying to build a community and, process his own internal world, all live on camera. It's a very compelling way to do things.
So let's just dive right in. Our first big observation is about the community and his role in it. Jeff consistently redirects these collaborative moments and even promoting other artists right back to his own story or his own issues.
And that's probably the biggest structural weakness we found. I mean, he calls the stream a campfire, which implies this, communal, everyone gets a say kind of vibe.
Right.
But the transcripts show that anytime someone else's art is featured, it becomes a jumping-off point to talk about his own self-diagnosis, his goals, or its past.
There's a really striking example of this with the premiere of Moose's music video, Elemental. He debuts this collaborator's work, and then, almost instantly, he pivots.
He doesn't just pivot, he completely recenters the whole thing. After showing the video, he immediately launches into these technical critiques.
Oh yeah, the color to black and white ratio being off.
Right, or that the scissors is maybe a few frames too long. And look, feedback is fine, but doing it right away like that, it just reestablishes him as the expert, the director in that moment.
And that's before he makes the complete psychological leap away from Moose's art and back onto his own history.
Exactly. He jumps straight into, I'm thinking about this collaboration thing, and I'm thinking of all of the times I've successfully collaborated in the past. It subtly turns what should be a celebration of Moose's art into a session about Jeff's need for validation.
The collaborator's achievement becomes a mirror.
A mirror that only reflects Jeff's own internal state.
Yeah. Okay, but let me push back on that for a second. If his natural impulse is to connect everything back to himself, isn't asking him to detach from that going against his authentic style? How do you create those boundaries without making it feel sterile?
That's a fair question. And we're not asking him to be inauthentic. It's about recognizing the psychological impact here. When you constantly center yourself, collaborators can start to feel, well, like props in your narrative.
Like their art is just a prompt for his next monologue.
Precisely. The weakness isn't the introspection itself, it's the timing. It feels less like a real collaboration and more like, a commercial for Jeff's psychological journey.
So if the problem is this sort of gravitational pull back to the host, how do you actually stop that from happening live?
To make this stronger, he really needs to implement some hard scheduling boundaries. A dedicated block of time where external content is just discussed on its own merit. No personal history, no host self-diagnosis.
So what would that look like in practice?
Well, for one, you could introduce a named segment, something like Collaborators Corner. Give it a strict 5 or 7 minute clock.
A Q&A block?
Exactly, where he asks Moose, and only Moose, about the grayscale aesthetic in Elemental. No immediate host commentary. Another idea, with that Funhouse Mirrors video, instead of interpreting it as a reflection on himself, he could open it up to the panel.
Ask them what they thought.
Yeah, ask them about their reflections. That diffuses the focus immediately, away from the host's own trauma and back onto the community.
That makes a lot of sense. It reframes the art as a prompt for everyone, not just for him. Okay, so that shifts the center of gravity.
Exactly.
Let's move on then, because this need for validation and clarity, it seems to extend way beyond just human interactions. Our second critique is about Jeff's reliance on external tools. He has this heavy, explicit reliance on AI to define his brand, to psychoanalyze himself, and to justify huge channel pivots.
Efficiency. He's using it for deep, personal, psychological assessment.
He even said he wanted to bypass the nice filter to get brutal, harsh things about myself.
Right, and that preference for the machine's bluntness over, the messy and complex feedback from a real person, it suggests he's using the AI as a kind of substitute, a way to get self-awareness without the risk of a real relationship.
And the AI gave him what he wanted. It called him inflexible, overbearing, suspiciously emotional. It even identified his shadow tyrant. And here's the critical part. He then immediately adopts those insights as official channel strategy. He literally rebrands the channel around this AI-defined, high-intensity, honest, misfit-centered culture. He's outsourcing his identity.
Completely. The AI gives him these very clear, very certain answers about who he is. And he gets that clarity without the emotional cost of being truly seen or, challenged by another person.
It's fascinating. The transcript even shows him saying, "It's nice when you're thinking something and then this machine thinks the same thing." He's using it as a validator before he even brings ideas to the community.
Absolutely. And that reinforces a cycle where he ends up trusting the machine more than the very people he says he wants this intense connection with. It's a kind of identity confusion where the persona is being built by an algorithm instead of just emerging through life.
So if that's the issue, externalizing his core identity, what's the fix? How does he start to internalize that process again?
He needs to start processing these AI-generated diagnoses in private. Sit with them, figure out how they align with his reality, and then translate them into human-centered goals, not just machine-derived brand taglines.
Okay, let's make that really actionable. How does he do that? How does he separate the useful insight from the dangerous part of just adopting machine's identity for himself?
Okay, so instead of rebranding to attract high-intensity people on the AI's say-so, he should focus the stream on the real-world consequences of that shadow tyrant behavior.
Like when he treats disappointment like a betrayal.
Exactly. The goal should be, how can I, Jeff, meet people where they're at? Referencing that Jesus communication model he talked about. That's a human goal. It's not about changing the whole demographic of your channel based on a machine's input.
It's about a behavioral change, not a brand change.
Yes, and if the AI suggests a strategy like Landry standing on ice blocks, he should treat it as a community challenge. But he has to separate that action from his immediate psychological reason for it, like linking it to past trauma on the spot.
That's a key boundary. The self-disclosure should follow the action, not drive the entire strategy from the outset.
It's about building a channel based on human outcomes, not machine-validated internal monologues. Which leads us straight into our final critique, and this one is about the huge contradiction between his stated goal of vulnerability and the reality of his need for control. The topic is this: Jeff's attempt to formalize his community into tiers directly conflicts with that Campfire vibe. This is where the whole high-intensity claim just completely falls apart when you look at the structure. He creates this multi-tiered ally map. Audience, community, inner circle, even a troll circle. And it's all based on people adhering to his norms. He's trying to build something solid out of unstable material, basically using the community to manage his own weaknesses, like being a magnet for manipulators.
So the goal is raw conversation with high-intensity people? But the lower tiers explicitly require low to moderate conflict capacity and no deep personal access.
Exactly.
That seems like a massive contradiction. He's attracting the very intensity he craves and then immediately sorting people based on how easy they are for him to handle.
It's a profound contradiction. The whole system is designed for host protection and status, not organic community growth. It's all about managing his own trauma. That collaborator tier is so telling. It notes that collaborators are not emotionally central to this community. It's a shield.
And you can see this happen in real time, right? When a panelist, Xeff, actually tries to engage in a conflict by asking if he set her up, he just shuts it down.
Completely shuts it down, demands open, honest, and direct communication, accuses her of playing games. He avoids messy public conflict, the very thing a high-intensity community should be able to handle because it triggers his own history of treating conflict as a betrayal.
So the tiers are basically there to protect him from the reality of the people he claims to want.
He wants high intensity, but only the kind he can control and narrate.
So if the structure is just a form of control, how do you break that dynamic but still keep the space safe for everyone? The suggestion is pretty radical. You have to abolish the tiered structure entirely. Instead of policing membership, you integrate the core value, dealing with strong emotion, right into the format of the stream itself. Like a ritualized space for confrontation?
Exactly. You give us some concrete examples. Instead of sorting people, focus on the stated goal of translating the felt but unspoken into language. He could introduce a segment called The Forge.
The Forge, I like that.
Right? A place explicitly for high-intensity debate, for practicing conflict resolution. It would be time-limited, it would have clear rules, but it would be an arena for friction that actually models how to tolerate chaos, rather than just kicking people out who don't communicate in his preferred way.
So you create a contained space for the friction. You control the chaos by scheduling it, not by banning the people who bring it.
Yes, he has to accept that vulnerability means risk. If you want raw conversation, you have to tolerate unpolished human engagement, even if it feels like emotional vibe bullshit. You can't just label anyone who challenges you a troll and put them behind a fence. That really wraps up a dense critique. So, to quickly recap the main points for the listener. First, Jeff needs to structurally shift the focus away from his own self-diagnosis and back onto his collaborators. Second, he needs to take that AI feedback and internalize it privately. Translate the machine's insights into his own human-centered goals. The AI can be a consultant, but it can't be his psychological validator.
And finally, he has to get rid of that contradiction in his community structure. He needs to let the high-intensity campfire he talks about actually define itself organically, instead of imposing this control-based hierarchy that's just there to manage his own insecurities.
Yeah, I mean, if he can address those high-level structures, the collaboration patterns, where he gets his identity from, and the community design, the channel will be so much stronger. It'll be less about his vulnerabilities and more genuinely about the community.
We invite you to implement these adjustments and submit your revised materials back for a follow-up critique. We look forward to seeing the evolution of Outliers in Exile.